Welcome to today's session and thanks for joining. In these live sessions, I demonstrate a technique for swing trading profitably in any market condition by taking only high probability and low risk 360 degrees trades. I am Sagar Nandi, active trader in multiple markets. I trade using queue systems that run on Metastock and TradeStation platforms. Queue has multiple components. Disclaimer, this demonstration is for educational purposes only. I am not an investment advisor. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. Options trading can be risky. You may refer to the characteristics and risks of standardized options document from OCC to decide if options trading is suitable for you. Let's start with instruments that often move the market. And I'm going to use the latest Metastock version, Metastock 20, Metastock XX. For that, we start with the Dollar Index ETF UUP. In the last market recap, in fact, in last several market recaps, I expressed my bullish view on UUP, and that is playing out quite well. It is going up with higher low and higher high, and this trend line support is intact. I am expecting it to continue the uptrend even if it pulls back little bit. I am not expecting it to break the trend line support and then the white and yellow direction line support so easily. And if that turns out to be correct expectation, that means UEP will remain bullish. That may put pressure on the market, though that inverse correlation does not always work. The other instrument that moves the market with direct correlation, that correlation always works, that is for Megacap Custom Index. Megacap Custom Index, as I showed in several previous market recaps, it was underperforming the market and it is still underperforming the market. It created a false upside breakout at the bearish headwind level, and since then it is pulling back. It is now below the 50 days moving average and below majority of the Q direction lines also. There is nothing on this chart that tells that we may buy mega caps. It is looking bearish in both weekly. In weekly it is bearish, in daily it is showing some signs of stabilization. However, there is no bullish setup. I would not like to buy any mega caps in the current market environment. Next, Q market breadth, internal health check. Usually the market follows the internal health, not the other way around. I look at the total view, the broadest view of the market. After this series of confirmed Hindenburg omens, price came down, and we also had a Phoenix signal, heavy selling signal. The signal was invented by Mr. Ian Woodward, may him rest in peace. When price was in this region, I was thinking that it might create something that is called ice hole failure. Did it create ice hole failure? We'll see that momentarily, but see that though price has come down from the level where Hindenburgs started to appear, we didn't have large distribution count so far. Only one here, that is not significant. That is one thing that is telling that market is not falling wholeheartedly. It is pulling back little bit but not falling wholeheartedly because there is no distribution count. Now of course I have to temper that statement a bit by looking at the Phoenix signal, but we keep both of them in mind. On Friday, interestingly, we have 3 accumulation count. However, the candle shape is not bullish, and the oscillators percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average, and here 3-month new high low, they were and they are in the bearish territories. However, none of them were extremely oversold to warrant an expected up move. This chart does not allow us to buy, not even looking at the 3 accumulation count. What is in favor? Growth versus value is coming down, so value is doing better. Small cap versus large cap is tilting down, so large cap was doing better. So large cap value was doing better. That was what I shared in the last market recap also. On Friday, small caps tilted up little bit. Small caps did better, but it is still small cap value, not small cap growth. So that does not paint a bullish picture of the market. Let's look at a glance view of total view, the broadest view of the market. Again, in weekly, we had the bearish headwind, just like we had that near the top in mega cap custom index. The weekly is remaining bearish since then. Just like the mega cap custom index, it is below the lower boundary, that is a bit oversold situation. We even have one bull release signal, but the shape is not bullish. It does not allow us to buy. There is no bullish setup. And another reason I came here is to show that the expectation that I had of a ice hole failure that indeed materialized on Thursday. What does it mean? That meant that if you were, like I was, expecting an ice hole failure when market opened with a huge gap up and started to come down, you could short it easily using proper gap short day trade setup on many of the market ETFs. And I did that. I used options. I don't trade futures so much. And I made a nice profit on Thursday. On Friday, price went up little bit, but this candle shape is quite indecisive. So that is not allowing us to buy. Why I am coming to that point several times is that yes, we have large accumulation count on Friday. We have a market rally on Friday. We'll see that from other market angles also, but that is not allowing us to buy. The weekly is still remaining bearish in mega custom index and total view. It will remain bearish probably from other angles also. I'll not drill down into the market breadth charts for NYSE, Nasdaq Composite and major indexes. They don't give additional information or insight this week. Instead, let's look at the market's external view. This is how most people around the globe see the market. And let me make a good use of Metastock 20. It just got released. I'm getting used to the platform. In this market recap, the first market recap since Metastock 20 was released, I'm going to explain some of the changes. One change is that we don't have a power console button that used to be there on the left top corner. Instead, we have a panel on the left that is in auto hide mode, but you could also pin it. And that panel has the same options for chart, code center, explore. The others I don't use. Systems test, forecaster, and option scope. Let's look at the market using code center. I have created a list for the USA market instruments. I'm opening that list in code center. I will go through them alphabetically. Double clicking the first instrument opens it on the right panel. I don't want to look at just the daily chart. If I wanted to look at only daily chart, it has the first instrument dia. I could use the arrow buttons at the bottom or the hotkeys alt right arrow to move to the right. The next stock, or alt left arrow move to the previous stock. I could do that on the daily interval, but I would like to look at it using weekly, daily both. So let me open the 3 chart template with the queue as well as the momentum signals. Once the layout template opens, I will study it, and then if I move to previous or next instruments, it will refresh all the charts. But let's look at this instrument first. Dia. For a long time in several market instruments, I showed that there were trendline supports. Dia also had. That is technically broken this week in the weekly interval backdrop chart. But we have a lower tail that is tempering the bearishness, but there is no bullish signal. The daily is very similar to total view near lower boundary with a bull release signal, but indecisive shape. In the momentum chart on the right, again we see one ice hole failure on Thursday. Isn't it nice, profitable that I could anticipate it, and I shared that view publicly in previous YouTube videos. We had an ISOL failure in Dia. We had that in total view also, and we can see large momentum counts. At the right edge, it does not allow me to short, does not allow me to buy. Looking at the weekly, it is looking more bearish than bullish. Now I am going to move to the next instrument, and again you could use, if you are more used to use mouse, you could use this left and right arrow at the bottom in any of the charts. I have linked the charts in a way that if one chart is changed, the others will also change. You know already, if you are using Metastock, how to do that. Change all charts in a layout together. So I'm using right arrow with alt key, alt right arrow, to move from dia to next instrument. And it is moving to the next instrument. That is how I'm using the latest version now. Not just looking at daily, looking at weekly, daily, both, and going through all the market level instruments. External view, IWM. Once again, the bearish headwind caught me at the very top. Weekly color remaining bearish, though this week's candle shape is mixed with both upper and lower tail. Again, like Dia, like total view, like mega cap custom index, it is near lower boundary, has even a bull release signal, but there is a trend line resistance nearby. What I would like it to do for trading purposes is to actually go to the trend line resistance and till down from there. Remember, trend remains intact unless it is broken. So if it goes to the trend line resistance and tilts down, trend will remain intact. What trend? Of course, downtrend, and that will give a very low risk shorting opportunity, which is not there right now, and it is not allowing me to buy. It is far below 50-day moving average, in between 50 and 200-day moving averages. Right now doesn't allow me to buy or short for IWM also. Next instrument, and here I came to mega cap ETF, MAGS. That's fine. Let's look at it. It is not a market ETF. Now notice one thing. If you remember the mega cap custom index, the backdrop color was bearish for 4 weeks. But this is MAGS ETF. There the backdrop color is bearish for 3 weeks because MAGS is market cap weighted. It can hide the weakness much better than mega cap custom index that we have in Q market Brent. In any case, here also the bearish headwind caught the very top, and the backdrop color is remaining bearish. It is in a downtrend now. This is also an instrument where the trend line support that was there earlier has been broken below 50-day moving average. Here also we had one ISOL failure on Thursday. When you looked at all the ISOL failures appearing at the same time, you could more confidently short on Thursday. Let's continue with the other market instruments. Mid-cap ETF MDY. Here in the last market recap, I remember I showed, you remember also, that it was inside a triangle pattern in weekly. Now it has broken below that. That is bearish. However, it has a long lower tail with bullish indecision at the low. That is neutral signal, not bullish, because it could not go above the trend line support. If it could above go above the trend line support, that would constitute a false downside breakout, but that did not happen, and the daily is looking very similar to the other instruments. Far below the 50-day moving average, did not create any ISOL failure because it could not go back up to the 50-day moving average. Doesn't allow me to buy or short. QQQ, Mega Cap Custom Index, is underperforming now. That has a huge impact on QQQ and also on SPY, more on QQQ than SPY. Again, in weekly, the backdrop color caught almost the very top. When it appears, we may not realize that it is going to lead to a significant downtrend, but it can sometimes do that. That's why whenever the bearish headwind appears, I am cautious. Now backdrop color is bearish for 3 weeks in a row in weekly, and the weekly candle shape here is more bearish. We have a lower tail but not as long as in the other instruments we saw. Of course, QQQ is underperforming. Once again, we had one ice hole failure on Thursday. It was easy to short on Thursday, looking at all the ice hole failures coming together. QQQ equal weighted. It is holding this trend line support in weekly. In daily, of course, it broke the trend line support that was there. All the instruments broke trend line support in daily, and it has trend line resistance in daily. Again, looking at weekly daily doesn't allow me to buy or short. A common theme, as you can see in this week's market recap. Equal weighted S&P 500 RSP this week fell. Backdrop color is bearish for 4 weeks in a row. However, it has a long lower tail, has a bull release signal in daily, in a downtrend now, has trend line resistance, no trend line support, has lower high, lower low, therefore in a downtrend, but it does not allow me to buy or short. Alt right arrow again, SPY. once again the bearish headwind came near the very top. After that, for 3 weeks in a row, backdrop color is bearish. This week is again down. In daily, it has trendline resistance, no trendline support. The support that was there earlier is now broken. But Friday has a bull release signal. Indecisive shape candle, indecisive color does not allow me to buy or short. Again, on Thursday, we had one ISOL failure. Beautiful that I anticipated that happening and I could make a nice profit on Thursday using day trading. UUP we already saw. I think that was the last market level instrument. So we went through the external view of the market and I used the latest Metastock 20 version. You also notice quote center is now actually a tab, just like the chart is also a tab. Therefore, if I want to close both of them, I could go to File, Close All. That will close both of them and I'm going to do that. Next, Q edge bucket analysis pinpoints reversals with remarkable accuracy. Thanks to Dr. Jeffrey Scott, after watching whose videos I incorporated in Q systems, made in 100% real time. And as you know, every aspect of Q is 100% real time. No pseudo real time analysis. Edge also has sector industry stock breadth. It shows where the market came from, where it is now, and where it may go next. And this will also show that in spite of Friday's rally, market does not allow us to buy. First, bucket analysis. In spite of huge rally on Friday across stocks, industries, and sectors, still we have 51% of stocks below mid Bollinger Band. So the recovery was, sorry, not that one. The recovery was recovery in a downtrend. That is shown by the percentage of stocks below mid Bollinger Band still being more than above mid Bollinger Band. Almost neutral, slightly bearish, and the bucket analysis bar chart is showing it is not overbought or oversold. Let's look at the multiple periods to see how it is changing. 1 month longer term view is still very much bearish. 10-day also long term for swing trading also bearish. Even 5-day this week is more bearish than bullish in spite of the rally of Friday. The weekly being bearish in all the market level instruments, market breadth instruments, and QH sector industry stock breadth does not allow us to buy in spite of this rally on Friday. Lastly, lastly for market level analysis, QFinder technical breadth, we only profit by buying stocks going up or shorting stocks coming down for directional trades. Most of the Q trades are directional trades, if not all. This technical breadth shows the overall posture to adopt and allows easy drill down to find low risk trade setups. Weekly finder now mixed, slightly bullish than bearish. Improved a lot from previous week, and Friday would be very bullish across the board in all categories in momentum signals. On top of that, we have an bullish alert from green candle low and also bullish headwind. Those are reversal signals. So though all the other market level analysis so far told me not to buy, And this thing often happens like that. When everything else is telling us not to buy or short, Q finder sometimes defies that, and it pays. It increases profit to pay heed to what Q finder, this breadth, technical breadth, is saying. This is the only place where it is saying that it is okay to look to buy. But all the other analyses are against that. What is the market level summary then? The most important trading decision is whether and where to buy or short, or whether to stand aside. As of Friday's close, I would not like to buy any stock. Shorting is also not allowed because Friday we had a nice rally. If the market continues the downtrend again next week, maybe not on Monday, maybe Tuesday, I don't know, but we'll know in real time from Q systems. If it continues the downtrend again, there will be many shorting opportunities. If it goes up, continuing on Friday's rally, it will be possible to find some buy setups, but maybe not that easily. Why I am saying that is because the ISOL failure just happened on Thursday. We need to see if price can go above Thursday's high across all the market level instruments to have some confidence to buy. That ISOL failure was a serious signal, because, to me at least, because it happened across the board in almost all the market level instruments. With that view, I'd like to stand aside. I would not like to look for any buying or shorting ideas. I'll not probably list any, but we'll see. Maybe I'll go through some of the stocks later. But before that, let's review last week's trade ideas. Once again, the only trade idea that I shared in the last market recap, that was a bearish trade, that was SPAC, that hit the profit target quite easily. I identified the short setup on this day. It was a flow trend following short setup, and I think it was also, yes, it was also a breakdown short setup. So it had two short setups at the same time. The profit target would be the lower boundary, and easily hit the lower boundary on Thursday, and the trade had a nice profit. We would exit the trade at that point. We would not wait for Friday's rally for swing trading purposes. Q guideline is book profit once the profit target is hit. So this trade once again exited with a profit. This week's trade ideas, I am reluctant to look at any trading ideas, so I'll not do that. I'll not list any stock as buy or short idea, but because we have MetaStock 20 now, let me show some ways of using that. Let's do a top-down analysis, and we'll come to using MetaStock Q Global as the last step of that top-down analysis. Let's look at the sector scorecard. I'd like to drill down starting from industries, but look at the sector scorecard nonetheless, sort by Friday's performance. The strongest sectors on Friday, they were consumer discretionary, non-defensive, and healthcare, which can be defensive. Then materials, but okay, not among the top two. At the bottom is utilities, defensive sector, and then energy, non-defensive sector. So mixed signal. Now that is the relative score. That does not show the entire picture. If we look at the percentage move, all the sectors went up across the board. Which ones accelerated the most? Because some of the stocks were quite down. Let's see which ones were accelerating the most. That would be Infotech and materials. Both are non-defensive sectors. So if we are shortlisting candidates for buying, we may look at Infotech and materials, and maybe I will shortlist some stock. Okay, I said that I would like to usually drill down from industry, but looking at the current market, if I am looking for only accelerating sectors, For today, let me drill down only into these two sectors, industries. These are the industries in materials and infotech sector. Let me look for accelerating, or let's do or also. So now I have the most strongest or most accelerating industries in infotech or materials sector. You can see the strongest ones. Why I chose strongest ones, also not just the most accelerating. Continuing on the theme from sector level, I could look at only most accelerating these industries, but I noticed very quickly that the strongest ones are also among the accelerating industries if we look back a little bit. So let's look at both of these groups. Let's drill down into the S&P 1500 stocks to save time. In real life, I would like to drill down to liquid stocks, but to save time, I'm drilling down into S&P 1500 stocks. Look for up stocks on Friday. Look for at least one green star here, that is either undervalued or having high earnings growth in the last quarter or condition. I have these stocks. Now I'd like to see if they have any potential trade setup. One more click, it will cross-reference the fundamentally strong stocks in strongest industries, in strongest sectors with possible trade setups. I'm left with only 17 stocks. Now, this is where I would like to show you how I'm using Q Global and Metastock 20 to go through these 17 stocks one by one using weekly daily. Earlier, you could simply click this open chart icon, and so long as your chart application is on, which means in the current release, I have to pin the chart console. You see chart console here. I pin the chart console. I put my cursor here. If I do that, if I open a stock, it will open in the chart panel. Okay, but if I wanted to open multiple stocks, I could highlight them. Let me do this too. They would open in the chart panel one after another in a tabbed view. If my cursor was in the chart console, let me do that again. It would open the charts in the tabbed view on the right, as you can see. Tabbed view because I have tabbed view on. And now we have a way that we could go through the stocks one by one using weekly daily template, just like I did for the market level instruments. And this is how I'm using the latest features. Go to cost center. I have created one explore list. These are not watch list for long short. Those are separate categories. These are not candidate long short. These are not my portfolio holdings long short. Of course, in the webinar, everything has 0 stocks. But these are stocks for exploring further to put into one of the 4 categories below and eventually probably in the portfolio if I trade them. But currently they are just being explored. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open explore in quote center. I had a number of stocks from earlier iteration. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to add instruments, put my cursor in the add instruments position. What it will do is that when I go to this final 17 stocks for further exploration using weekly daily top-down analysis. So strong sector already confirmed, strong industry already confirmed, strong fundamental already confirmed, possible trade setup. I'm going to now click the chart icon and it will open those 17 stocks in quote center. And the statistics is showing 100% up. That is expected. I filtered like that. And I'm going to save the list once. I need to save it so that when I arrange them alphabetically, open the first chart by double clicking, or I could use this icon here, open the first chart, it will open the daily, but I don't want to look at the daily. Remember, just like I did for the market level instruments, I'm going to open the first stock using the at a glance chart. And let me use the 3 chart template, weekly, daily, including the momentum signals also, just like I did today for the market level analysis. And now I'm going to study the first stock, move to the next stock using the arrow key at the bottom or using alt right arrow. If I think something is buyable, I'm not holding any of these stocks, so I will add it into buy candidate list. And if it is not buyable yet using Q techniques, then I may add it to long watch list. Let's go through it. This stock has found support at the yellow direction line. This stock is AMKR. You can read the ticker symbol from the top. Found support at yellow direction line. Also 50-day moving average, has a bull release signal. Traffic light candle color turned bullish, but weekly is still bearish. I would not like to buy. See, this stock also had ISOL failure on Thursday. So I would like at minimum for the price to go above that before thinking of buying it, but that would be too late for me probably because the stop would be far away. So in any case, right now I am not able to buy it. Let me move to the next stock. Alt right arrow, alternate key right arrow on Windows keyboard. This is APH, also has support in yellow direction line, but once again the weekly is not bullish enough. It's actually bearish or neutral maybe if you look at the shape. So though it found support in daily in both momentum chart and Q chart, it's not allowing me to buy, not giving me enough confidence to buy. Next one, ARW. It has a bullish headwind in daily, but the weekly does not confirm the trade setup. So we have no confirm signal. Skip. Alt right arrow again. That was ARW by the way. Next stock. CGNX. Again, it's not something I would like to buy. Let me continue with the list. CRUS. Daily is looking interesting enough for me to consider buying, but the weekly on the left is still bearish. So let me skip that. Next, CTSH, Cognizant. Here the weekly is looking quite good, daily is also looking quite good. So this one is of interest to me. This is the first stock we saw so far today on the bullish side. Weekly is bullish, has a bullish reversal, bullish in color of course, backdrop color. Daily has broken above many trend line resistances and has a large momentum signal. This has a breakout long setup. It also has a possible flow long setup. So now I'm going to add it to my bullish candidate. By the way, it has an upper tail, so I would not like to buy a stock like that in the current market condition at the close of Friday. Even if I found it at the close on Friday, I did not. I'd like to wait to see if on Monday it continues to go up, or even better, tries to come down, finds support at one of these trend line resistance extensions and go up from there. Of course, I'll use the precision entry real-time 5-minute chart to make my entry, but this is a stock I'd like to add to my watch list. So what I do, I right click, add to custom list. I have already created all the list. It's not actually watch list, it's actually candidate long. So I don't need to watch for it to give me a buy setup. It is giving me a buy setup. So it said now long candidate. So I'm adding it to the long candidate. Once I do that, if I go back to Quote Center, you can see candidate long has one stock, that is CTSH. Now, of course, before adding, I did it in a hurry. Before adding, I would in real life like to look at the one page scorecard, fundamental scorecard. Let's do that. If fundamentals, I know it is either undervalued or high growth. Okay, this is looking good enough. And it's industry scorecard for this specific industry. Let's look up. I know industry will be strong. That's how we started the top down. And now I see, yes, certainly it allows me to buy the industries IT, consulting and other services. One of the strongest, also accelerating, went up by a massive 4% plus, and the stock scorecard is very appealing. 100% of peer stocks went up on Friday, undervalued with some earnings growth. It's a profitable company, funds are accumulating, steadily going up, and the chart is also very bullish. So it was all right to add it to candidate long list. Let me continue. Alt next, alt right arrow, next stop. This is Dow, DOW. This is also interesting. Why so? Is because it is at a lower price level. You see, I am comfortable trading stocks at lower price level, middle price level, a little bit on high price level, but not so much. I like this because it has support in weekly, daily both. One of the most powerful technical buy setups come when weekly has trendline support and daily has a trendline breakout. It did not decisively break out on Friday, but if it continues to go up on Monday, it will make a decisive breakout. It also has the unique possible reversal signal. We have many momentum signals. Now, this is not a long candidate, but this is certainly can be a long watch list stock. But before that, let's again, this time I'll do it in proper sequence. Let's look at its one page fundamental scorecard. This workflow is of utmost importance. If you are disciplined in trading, it's not that technical indicators are everything. Q technical indicators are quite strong. It's not that patterns are everything. Q patterns are very useful. Price extreme low, fan out, etc. Not even trade setups are everything. Q has very profitable trade setups. 360 degrees trades, including fundamental and industry scorecard, are very useful. But even that in itself not enough. We need to have a robust workflow, and that is what I am demonstrating using only Q systems on Metastock. You could use TradeStation also in combination with Q Edge Vital, but because Metastock released the latest version, I am using Metastock almost exclusively for this top-down analysis. Actually, exclusively. I think I didn't go back to TradeStation for finding the stocks. Okay, coming back to fundamental scorecard of Dow. First thing you notice, if you kept the picture of CTSH in mind, this is fundamentally not as strong. Why? Because it is undervalued, but earnings growth is not high. And that is not unexpected because this stock is at a much lower price level. If earnings growth was so strong, it would not be at a lower price level. But what I like here is that insiders are buying. They tend to know more than probably all of us. And I also like the fact that it is paying a nice dividend. Earnings per share is negative for multiple periods. That's a concern. But I like the dividend yield. I like the stock being at a low price level. I like 100% peer stocks going up on Friday. And let's look at the specific industries scorecard, commodity chemicals. I like this also, one of the strongest and one of the most accelerating. So this stock, a stock like Dow with high dividend yield, I might like to trade using short put or short put vertical. Of course, if you are trading short put, you know, you would be probably ready to hold the stock if you get assigned. If you are not willing to do that, you might trade it with short put vertical. Now, as I mentioned, the breakout on Friday is not decisive. So I would like to not make it a long candidate, but I would like to add it to watch list. And that is why I created the different lists. I'm going to add to custom list, and I'm not going to add to candidate long, but I am going to add to watch list long. Okay. As I add it, it is remaining in the watch list long. So when market opens on Monday, I will see if it is allowing me to take a long position. And if that does not happen on Monday, it will remain in the watch list long. I'll check again on Tuesday and so on and so forth. One of two things will eventually happen. Either it will allow me to buy or it will start to go down, at which point I'll say that it is not required to keep in the watch list anymore. So when and if I decide that, I could open it in Quote Center, which I will do every day, highlight the stock and use the delete button to delete it from the list if it is no longer needed there. That is how I am intending to use the multiple lists. It's a simple concept, but it is making the workflow more valuable to me, more consistent, more disciplined. So Dow I added to watch list, CTSH I added to candidate long. Let's continue. EXTR daily is looking good. I'm not pointing to all the charts anymore. I'm moving through them quickly. But though daily is looking okay for Q chart, weekly is backdrop is not interesting enough for buying. So I'm skipping that. Next is Intel, INTC. Daily again is looking interesting, you may say. What does interesting mean? I could consider buying, not buy candidate, consider buying, but weekly is not allowing that. So skip to next stock. KD, weekly is not allowing me to buy at all. Skip to next one. KN, remember it is alphabetically sorted. Weekly not allowing me to buy. Let me skip to next one. LITE, daily is actually quite strong. This is one of the stocks at a higher price level, price extreme high. But we had a bearish headwind just on Thursday and the weekly has multiple upper tails. I would not like to buy, though Friday found a nice support from trend lines. Skip that also. Next one, LRCX. Daily found support at the yellow direction line, but weekly does not allow me to buy. Move on to the next one, NXPI. Again, weekly does not allow me to buy. Move on to the next one. You see, in a second or two or three, you can decide, like I can decide if there is a buying opportunity or watch list adding opportunity or not. Next one, SNX, again weekly does not allow me to buy. Next one, SWKS, weekly does not allow me to buy. Move on to the next one, TTMI. This one is interesting. Daily and weekly both has trend line support. It is still in an uptrend. Therefore, it is much stronger than all the market level instruments, stronger than most of the stocks we saw so far, probably stronger than all of them. Now again, at Friday's close, I would not like to buy because though it has a bounce long setup, I think it has a bounce long setup, but traffic candle color in daily is still red. So I'd like to add it to my watch list. That is different from the only buy candidate I selected, CTSH, that had weekly daily both telling me that it is ready to buy now. But TTMI, okay, before adding to custom watch list, let me follow the disciplined approach. Look at its one page scorecard again. TTMI. The fundamental scorecard immediately allows me to buy. It is all green and yellow. Again, 100% of peer stocks went up on Friday. Friday had a nice rally in the market. High growth stock, medium valuation, profitable company. Dow was not a profitable company, but TTMI is electronic manufacturing and services, and its industry scorecard. One of the most accelerating. That's good. I like accelerating or turnaround industries. And though relative scorecard is not strong, this industry still went up by a sizable 2% on Friday. And also, if you are used to these systems, I noticed that the earnings growth not only is high, it is going up. Revenue growth going up for multiple quarters. Those are things I like. So TTMI, only reason I might not consider buying it on Friday if I found it, I did not, is the color being red and the current market situation. So I'm going to add it to custom list and add it to watch list long. Could be bought on Monday. And now when I found this stock, I have the picture of Dow in my mind. Let's open watch list long. Now Dow is not looking so interesting anymore once I find TTMI, so I'm going to remove Dow from the list. I have a much better, stronger fundamental stock that has uptrend in both weekly, daily. So I'm removing Dow now, keeping just TTMI in watch list. I save the list. Okay, can close the code center tab. Continue with last few stocks. I'm explaining the entire workflow, top down workflow. This is AKMR. The daily is looking quite good, but weekly is not allowing me to buy in the current market condition. Again, here also massive number of stocks had ISOL failure. Sorry, not ISOL failure here. But this came down below 52. I'm sorry, this is not ISOL failure. ISOL failure would have been here. This is actually in an uptrend, but the weekly does not allow me to buy. Apology for that mistake on ISOL failure. Skip to the next stock. I think we went back to A again. That's why I sorted it alphabetically. So I'm left with only, let's open, candidate long has CTSH and watch list long has TTMI. That is my workflow of finding the stocks, listing them in a single place, and then trading them on Monday. If I found it on Friday and I wanted to trade it, then I would have traded it and add it to the portfolio. In that case, I have a portfolio long, portfolio short. I would have added it there. If the trade exits, then I would remove it from portfolio long, all using Quote Center. So I'm finding Quote Center quite useful, and that is opening as a tab. The lists are all managed in a single place now for me. Simple change, as is typical for Metastock, they focus on usability in all the releases one after another, and I'm finding these usability enhancements quite useful for my workflow. Again, looking at the current market condition, I would not like to actually list any of the stocks as a buy or short candidate. You remember, we went through many stocks. Only one stock I found as a buy candidate. That is also a way of Q telling us that it is not the time to buy, even though the market rallied on Friday. So I'm not listing any stock as a buy or short candidate this week. I removed last week's peak back but did not add anything. Though I did not add anything, if you wanted to trade, I don't want to, if you wanted to, you could probably find trading candidates today both in long and short duration, as you would find almost every other day using Q systems. Thanks a lot for joining. I look forward to seeing you in my next session. Have a great weekend. And as these examples on YouTube, examples of trade ideas, candidates list, the workflow, I'm quite confident shows on YouTube and also on Twitter, quite confident shows there is no reason not to do that. Trade profitably. Thank you.